do you want me to say? Give me the words, and I'll run with them. Yeah, sure. All right. Give me a sec to come up with a voice. Welcome to Apostasy Now. I'm your host, Lee Moore, and joining me as always are these guys. Yeah, have fun with it. Let me know what you guys use, and definitely send me a link when you guys put this out, and I'll spread it around. No worries. Yeah, no worries. No worries. Yeah, no worries. I'm really fucking shit-faced, and you're listening to Apostasy Now because I'm awesome, you're awesome, and destroy everything. Oh yeah, and I'm... No worries. Yeah, no worries. No worries. Yeah, no worries. Or I could just do... You're now listening to Apostasy Now, and this is Lee Moore, and I endorse this because it's good, and you're not. I don't know. That works. No worries. Yeah, no worries. No worries. Yeah, no worries. Like I said, thank you guys, and keep doing the show.
Welcome back to Apostasy Now. So this episode we decided just to cut loose. Smashlock and I are chit-chatting about whatever we feel like talking about. So that's for the first part. I split it into two. And the second part, we have some podcasters that call in, some friends of ours. Won't tell you who. Check it out to find out. It's a lot of fun. That'll be part B for this episode. And down the road, I think I'm going to have somebody come in and talk to us as a guest. Probably discussing differences between their theistic beliefs and our non-theistic beliefs. And later than that, or maybe sooner than that, someone who deals with persecution because of people's beliefs. I want people to be able to be free apostates without being murdered for it. So anyways, back to the fun stuff. This is Apostasy Now.
It's hard to believe they're white.
They ain't white anymore.
Because I'm very much a skeptic. I'm more of a skeptic than I am an atheist. I mean, atheist is a conclusion based on my skepticism.
You'll have to come like a little child to the foot of the cross.
That attitude is what is responsible for the rise of atheism.
That's not what Islam is all about. Islam is peace.
What is the penalty for leaving the Muslim faith?
With the death penalty.
Thank you.
This is Apostasy Now.
For people to get the information correct before they start yapping.
Get ready to root for the bad guys.
Begins with E, evidence. All the evidence.
All I was saying is that the two storylines are completely incompatible, but, now the worst part is that now that I've seen the little trailer clip with fucking Batman in the helmet,
Yeah.
which, by the way, in a comic book, whatever, it's a comic book, it's a drawing, and it's this heavily stylized Frank Miller kind of thing. It just looks gay. And I don't mean gay as in, homo, I just mean gay as in completely, utterly fucking lame.
Yeah.
And you couple that with Ben Affleck's usual acting style, and, DC, what are you doing?
Okay, so what was the big mistake they made with Enterprise for Star Trek? The last TV series they made. Is they cast Quantum Leap guy as the captain.
I didn't mind that. Scott Bakula?
But a lot of people, they didn't like Quantum Leap, so they automatically had a negative taste going into the show. Whereas if they had cast someone that was not that familiar, they could have had a fresh start.
Yeah.
Ben Affleck's the same story. Whether, some people are like, well, give him a chance. But a lot of people are like, yeah, we have, over and over, and he really sucks. And now he's in a Batman suit.
Yeah. I don't know. I maybe I would have thrown a buttload of money at Christian Bale, but again, he didn't really match what the universe they were creating. He was incompatible with the Superman that they were creating. So, plus I really didn't want to listen to another 2 or 3 films of Christian Bale gargling marbles. Where are the drugs? Where are the drugs?
That guy that does that, what's his name? Pete something?
Yeah.
His Batman's awesome. I wanted to make a feature film with him.
Where are the drugs? What are you doing?
Batman, it's not the Joker. Still punches him another time. I'll be honest, part of me knew that.
You're Batman. Yeah, and I have no special powers. I'm basically just rich and nuts. Rich and nuts.
Bruce, your scientific mind alone
is completely useless when we have a man that bullets literally bounce off of.
Your fighting skills.
My main nemesis is Bane. Basically just a roided out jock with a gas mask, and he straight up broke my back. You could have taken him down with one hand, and with the other hand, you could have just jerked him. Super jerk.
Oh, that guy's awesome. He got his own show, and I've been told it's canceled.
Already?
Yeah.
What the fuck? See, this is the thing about TV shows, like, or not TV shows, like cable companies, whatever the hell you want to call them. I can't think straight just yet. I was up too late.
Segment shows?
Yeah, you know, they take on like a pilot episode, and then they're like, oh, no audience would like this. And of course, they bring in demographics of people who probably wouldn't have appealed to anyway.
Yeah.
Because what they aren't bringing in, and maybe they should start doing, is like focusing on young people who generally watch the internet for their entertainment. Because those are the people that brought this guy to you.
Yep. You'll notice Weird Al almost completely ignored television with this release.
Yeah,
and he went into the top 10 charts right away with his latest album, first time in years.
Yeah, Word Crimes. Fucking brilliant.
Yeah. He released 8 videos in 8 days, and each one was with a different comedy network online.
Mm-hmm. College Humor did 2 of them, I thought.
Oh, okay. So that's a huge spread there of...
aluminum foil.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen anyone wearing a tinfoil hat in real life?
No.
I have, but I dated the person, so I can't tell you about that.
Wow.
I'm not sure if it was serious or just for comical effect, or maybe a little of both. I've sent out a few invitations. Like I say, it's the summer, so a lot of people I don't think they're even noticing their inbox right now.
Yeah.
One of the people I've invited is Justicar.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I know that the one sore spot that's going to come up is eventually when he decides to inform me about why guns are really good. But I'm willing to deal.
Why? Oh, why they're good?
Yeah. He's a big believer in people having weapons to defend themselves.
Yeah.
He believes it's constitutional. He gets very legal. He gets very legal about his arguments. The reason I point people to Justicar isn't pretty much everything else he says. I pretty much agree with.
But the gun thing.
Yeah. But still, I agree with the way he expresses it. At least he lays out his case, says what his sources are. That's the way an argument should be made. I mean, he's a good example of how to make a proper skeptical argument.
Believe it or not, even as a Canadian, I don't have anything against their right to bear arms. What I find funny is when they don't defend all of the other rights.
Yeah, the right to eat.
Maybe not him specifically.
Or have, like in Detroit, the right for water.
Yeah. But no, like, I mean, I've never had the discussion about firearms with him, but I mean, I used to know a bunch of really, really, like, smart people on Stickam when I used to go on there and go into the debate faith room. And honestly, you could have a rational conversation about that, anything with them. Anything. But 2 subjects you couldn't. Healthcare and firearms. Fuck, they would just lose their shit. And it was like the most rational skeptic would all of a sudden break down into a slack-jawed redneck and just be like, you can't take away our guns! You know, you can't give us welfare! No, healthcare. Welfare! You know, like, no, it's
2 different words for a different reason, right? The W and the H make a difference.
Exactly. But, like, literally, the most rational-minded skeptic would just turn into a drooling idiot over this topic.
Yeah.
And, like, look, if you want to argue, okay, look, it is our constitutional right, this is the way it is, and we have to fight against anyone who wants to change that, fine. But then fight to protect your other constitutional rights.
Yeah.
You know, you can't sit there and say, well, the government has to spy on everyone because they have to keep us safe from terrorists. You know, and then lose all of the rights that the Constitution afforded you to, like, privacy and freedom and all that crap.
Oh, yeah.
And then go, but I still get to keep my Glock. Like, I mean, if the United States is going to go through a revolution at any point going forward, and that's I think kind of why they think it's important to have these guns in case they want to overthrow the government.
Yeah.
They lost the ability to do that
a long time ago.
Well,
look, this is what I mean. Like, I've had this discussion with multiple people, and so there's different types of people who advocate for gun rights. There's people who don't really talk about it all that much, who are usually the hunters, or they understand that people are going to hunt. They see hunting rifles as simply like a more advanced version of a crossbow. You're not going to be running into a bank with a crossbow. At least most people wouldn't, right? The problem I have is where it's conflated with safety. Statistics don't bear it out, and I think what it comes down to is some people have that strong sense at the end of the day where they're like, I want to be able to protect myself no matter what anyone says, and I kind of see it like a safety blanket, like a baby blanket. I think it's an illusion. But, the reason it's become more apparent to me is I've spent like 3/4 of the last 7 years in the States. So you hear a different talk over there than you hear. Like up here, if someone has a handgun underneath their coat, they're probably a lunatic. Down there, it's apparently pretty common in a lot of states.
Well, yeah.
I don't go looking through people's coats, but there a lot of states allow you to have the gun concealed have a license have it concealed.
Yeah, you gotta have a permit.
Yeah.
And then there are states that you don't need a permit to carry as long as it's open carry.
Yeah.
And I find those funny because I watched a bunch of videos on those where these guys would march up and down like city streets and people would be calling the police freaking out.
Yeah.
So the police would go and pull this person over and go, "What are you doing?" And he'd be like, "I'm just exercising my constitutional right." And the cop's like, "Really? You're just causing a ruckus on purpose." And he's like, "No, I'm not." And you listen to them and some of them sound rational and the other ones are just like, "I just want to carry a gun because I'm a dick."
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah, and they have this example like what the Founding Fathers expected, right? Okay, so the Founding Fathers lived in a completely different time. I know they roll their eyes at this argument, but I mean, come on. They did not have people living in this compact way with this much integration in our lives. Like, basically, the government can pull up what your library records are, what you've been shopping for, getting groceries, and they can do it in a few minutes on a computer. That kind of integration wasn't even perceived of in those times.
Well, not only that, but like during the time that the revolution was taking place, they had muzzle-loader muskets.
Yeah.
Like, if you were an expert shot, you could probably fire 2 shots in a minute, maybe. Yeah. And I'm probably wrong on that. It was probably less. It was probably like a shot a minute. So it makes me wonder, in the hypothetical scenario where you could go back in time and like be like, "Yo, guys, just so you know, when you say that these people have the right to bear arms, would you say that they still have that right if the guns they're shooting shot 100 bullets a second?
Yeah.
Or 100 bullets a minute or whatever it is?" And they would probably be like, "That is preposterous. No gun could shoot that many bullets."
He is possessed by the devil.
Yeah, exactly.
What is that glowing stone that he is speaking to? He calls it a tablet. It is surely from God, for it has pictures moving on it.
Yeah, this is the holy. I come with new commandments.
I am a prophet from God.
Literally, one smartphone could turn you into an angel or a devil.
Yeah, well, the battery might not last that long, but if you can bring enough batteries...
I could figure it out somehow. I need a magnet, some copper, and my USB cable.
Yeah.
Because I can't make that.
USB, come with me.
No, but seriously, like, you're right. It was a completely different time, and none of these men who wrote this Constitution could have possibly conceived of the advancement of technology and how that would change the firearm.
Right. You could take one of our, even just a handgun now with a good-sized clip in there. You go back in time, they've all got muskets, like 10 guys. You have a standing chance, right?
As long as you're a good shot.
Yeah, like depending on the range, how many shots they're firing, are they reloading? Yeah, like it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, you give that Mundus guy 2 6 shots, those guys are dead.
So, I don't argue with everyone in the same way. Like some people, they want to have their one gun, the bullets out, in a safe, in their house. In case someone breaks in, they're going to open their safe, they're going to get their bullets out, they're going to arm themselves, probably never been to a training course, go downstairs and stop the bad guy. I'm not going to argue with that. That's probably just going to sit in a safe and never be taken out.
Yeah.
But the guy who wants to walk down the street with a AK-47 strapped to his back, like I've spent a lot of time in the States, right? It still bothers me, the idea that so many people are carrying pieces over there, because one of them could end up killing me. To be quite frank.
I don't know, like, I do agree with the counter argument that it's the bad guys that are the problem.
Right.
When somebody says we need to get rid of all AR-15s because this one person did this tragedy in Newtown, and AR-15s are bad.
Yeah.
No, an AR-15 is a tool. It is a tool that, if in the hands of a trained and skilled individual, is generally harmless if it's used at a range or for hunting. If you want to hunt an animal with a gun that can do what an AR-15 can do,
whatever's left of the animal when you're done.
Yeah. I get that part of the argument. I really, truly, and honestly do. So, I mean, it is unfair when they try and legislate away an entire group's rights. We're going to take away this gun. This gun is now illegal. If I were that group, I would be against it too. It'd be like if somebody told me I can't drive until I'm 30 because more accidents happen from young male drivers under 30.
Yeah.
So now I'm bereft of the right to drive because a majority of men that are younger than me are kind of dumb behind the wheel. I would lobby against that. Because it's not my fault that a majority of other men that age are like that.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, I have a certain amount of tolerance, even though I don't think it's necessary to have the guns. It's kind of like the proliferation, right? Like, people say, like, why should the United States, Russia, China, England, France, why should these types of countries that already have nuclear weapons be able to tell other ones not to have it? And there's a logic to the argument. I'll admit it. But I still want them to do it. Because I don't want every country to have nuclear weapons. It's how many guns are out there, and what is the mindset that makes that happen? I think that there is a distrust of one's fellow citizens, and this idea that disasters around every corner, and surely we're all about to die. This is a bad mindset.
Yeah, see, I'm not so concerned about proliferation, to tell you the truth, and maybe that's because I'm stupid. But, like, I mean, certain nations probably have more access to the resources that are needed to make nuclear weapons. Uranium, plutonium, whatever goes in this. I'm not a nuclear physicist, or a nuclear engineer. But, could you imagine what it would be like if some other society came up to ours, North American society, and said, no, you can't advance any further. You can't explore new technologies. Like, let's say they are just doing it for nuclear power. That doesn't stop them from taking it the next step and going from nuclear power to nuclear bombs. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to stop all nuclear technology from advancing so that they don't ever get the bombs.
Well, maybe in the future, what we should work towards as an international society is using something like the UN or an international group of some kind to oversee all new nuclear power development. So that the country that has it isn't solely responsible, and that there are safeties in place to make sure we know exactly what's going on with the implementation.
Yeah, but even if you had that, some crazy genius is going to come up with a hidden bunker somewhere where he can develop a bomb.
So this brings us to Ebola.
Ebola. Ooh, we were jumping subjects today. We went from Batman and Superman to...
But they make nuclear weapons sound like they're going to be the thing that destroys us, right? So we have to, keep Iran from having a nuclear bomb. But right now, there's an Ebola outbreak going on in Africa. Did you hear about that?
There's always an outbreak in Africa, though.
But Ebola, that's the thing that it has I think a 60% kill rate or more.
Yeah.
Turns your internal
organs into mush.
Yeah. And they let some of the doctors come back, apparently, to the States. This is what I've been told. They let them back into the States after them being there, and now they've got a couple of cases in the States. I'm just using it as an example. Even if it doesn't go any further than that, disease, I think, can wipe out humanity or destroy chunks of society a lot easier these days than nuclear weapons.
It's all in an Illuminati plan.
That's right.
Yeah.
But not me. I got a tinfoil hat.
Yeah, I'm immune to Ebola because I wear a tinfoil hat.
I don't eat any of that artificial sweetener, so...
Yeah. Oh, God. You're not getting your RFID chips in my fucking sweetener, bastard.
Let's see.
No, how's this feminism's fault? I'm just curious.
Well, it's because feminists are responsible for everything stupid.
If they just left the patriarchy alone, we would have caught this.
You know who I feel? Actually, you know what? I've come to feel sorry for even more than victims of feminist ideology directly. I actually feel sorry for people who identify as feminist and are not crazy, because they are constantly being grouped in with the crazy people.
I heard that same argument from The Amazing Atheist on that one drunken peasant show. He said, why do you let these obnoxious cunts say all this stuff and represent you. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, yeah, why do they do that? It's not like atheism ever had an obnoxious asshole. Oh, wait. And then, of course, he mentioned something about that earlier on in the video where he's like, who do you dare presume to kick me out of atheism? Even if I wasn't an atheist and the most subscribed atheist on YouTube, I'd still be an atheist even if you didn't have me represent you. But that doesn't change the fact that he is sometimes very obnoxious. Yeah. And he is the most subscribed obnoxious individual on the internet as pertaining to atheism. So how is that not the same thing? Perhaps I'm missing something. Like, to tell you the truth, I've become to like his arguments more and more as time has went on. Like, earlier on when I went on YouTube, I listened to like 2 minutes of his video and it was like rocking back and forth and,
hyperactive.
Just like, holy shit, dude, stop drinking coffee so much. Like, but I couldn't stand him earlier on. But as he's gotten older and calmed down a little bit, his arguments have gotten better. But that he's still got that edge, and he wants that edge, and he knows that edge brings him views. But how is that any different than a woman who's saying, "Shut up, fuckface, you patriarchal asshole"? Blah 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 blah. Like, it's not any different.
You know what? I'll specify that I think the difficulty. The difficulty for I'm getting beeps here. The difficulty for feminists.
We're gonna edit that out, right?
Yeah. No, I'm gonna leave that in there, and I'm gonna put like a little substation note.
Just the elevator music.
I was doing some cocaine lines on the table at this moment.
Left me out.
I ain't bring enough to share, man.
I know.
So, anyways, it's at the organizational level. So you have feminists who are like the patriarchy, men are evil, they're to blame, they cause all wars. Then you have the ones that are like, no, like we just want to have equal pay, equal opportunity for the same jobs, and we want to have a fair view of how statistics are used. We want honesty. But the difference between these two groups is that at the organizational level, where funding comes from grants and from the government and controls institutions and is involved in education, all of that is the extreme feminist. Because they push and they fight and they get together to do it. Whereas the more rational people, they have lives. I think that's really what it boils down to.
Well, then, by that measure, any group or block of individuals will tend to be led by the skin of their teeth by the most loudmouth extremists of their views. They'll always be the ones, like, the craziest Christians that ever preach on a street corner are the ones you'll hear about on the news or on the internet. The craziest Muslims who are out there screaming jihad are going to be the ones you see on the news or on the internet. Crazy feminists. Again, so like, basically our society has a huge core of rational people who have better things to do, and then a bunch of crazy individuals standing out front going, blah, 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 rabble, 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 rabble. Like,
yeah.
So there's really no way to change it. It just seems to be the way that our society functions. You let the crazy people blow each other up, and the rational people kind of clean up the mess and keep going on.
Well, what was pointed out to me is that in some cases, the big difference is money. I think that there's truth in that. So some of the people who make a lot of money as self-proclaimed feminists, who spout a lot of this stuff, they make a lot of their money off their positions.
Yeah.
And so they rile all these people up. In particular, I find they really like going after university students because in university, how do I put this? You go through a transformation of 3 or 4 years where you're trying out all kinds of new ideas. You're in a different type of environment. And so you're not really in touch, so to speak, with certain aspects of reality. Not everyone does that, but it's a very large phenomenon. It's really a good time to get in there with your ideology and start trying to grab these kids who can buy it without attaching it to all the downsides in a real world.
Yeah.
And, so I think if they take the money out of it, if they'd say, all right, from now on, for instance, shelters are not going to be run by anyone who has an ideology. If you're part of a group that campaigns, if you're subscribing to a group that campaigns, you can't be part of the management of the women's shelters that we're setting up. I think that would have an immediate chilling effect, at least in Canada. I know that's the way it is.
I don't know. On the flip side of that, I could kind of understand why women, and even I, would want somebody running a place who cares about the rights and the freedoms and the safety of the individuals inside. So I don't have necessarily a problem with somebody who is part of a group who advocates for the rights of women or men or anything living in or working in those kind of organizations, even if it did have a cooling effect. Where I take issue is just with the general hypocrisy. Like, anytime I've had a discussion with a feminist, it usually breaks down to all men are pigs. You know, like it eventually degenerates once you get past all of the other arguments that they've been presented with or made up themselves. It always breaks down to all men are pigs.
Yep.
And then I go, aren't you stereotyping? You know,
Yeah.
And even though stereotypes can be generally true, you're still not supposed to use them. You know, if I say all women are this, you say, oh, you patriarchal misogynist. But if you say all men are pigs, I don't get to call you out on it.
As I pointed out just yesterday to someone, there is a massive confusion between the words chauvinism and misogyny. Chauvinism is what they mean to say, but misogyny is hatred. I mean, somebody who goes out with a baseball bat targeting women, that's misogyny. I hate women. Somebody who goes, all women talk too much, that's chauvinism. That's not misogyny. That guy might really like women in a certain way, but he has foul ideas about them.
Yeah. The weakest argument I've heard from feminists, and because it's not even an argument, it's an attempt to silence dissent, is when I've had discussions with them around the college campus, because I'm, you know me, I don't shy away from an argument. And then once you start defeating their arguments, and once you've danced around the whole, all men are pigs, and even if you can get them to agree that all men aren't pigs, then after a while, once they start to realize they are on the losing end of the discussion, as long as you're a man, if you're a man and you are winning the discussion, then they will resort to the, well, aren't you just Mr. Smarty Pants?
Yeah.
You know, oh, I guess me, this
mansplaining.
Mansplaining to me. I guess I am just not smart enough to understand the man's point of view. It's like, how fucking childish are you? Like, really, this is what they teach you? Like, this is kindergarten or fucking high school locker talk, you know, right now.
Yep.
You were deciding to ignore everything I'm saying because I have a pair of testicles and dick.
Absolutely. It's the same thing as when they become what they hate. Who said that to me? Reed Payton said that. Yeah. It's when people become what they hate. And so they if you listen to the way they explain what the patriarch is and how men treated women in the past, and then you watch their modus operandi or whatever they call it, the way they behave, and their own type of vocabulary, they're exactly what they say they hate, only just flip the sexes.
Yeah.
It's just self-defeating.
Me, I'm down for equal rights, but I'm also realistic about it. You know, you're going to have women who are stronger than men. You're going to have some.
Yeah.
But the strongest woman in the world will never be as strong as the strongest man in the world. Unless they're putting
upper body strength.
Upper body strength. You know, we are a sexual dimorphic species. It's just the way we're built. I don't need to rehash that one because, I mean, like, that's just clear science. But then you have the mentality. Our brains are wired different. But generally, the field of intellect, like where our society generally rests most of its, you know, we put our eggs into our intellect, you know, that's what's going to propel us forward. We're pretty evenly split. But men are becoming lazy or unmotivated. I don't know what it is, but like, you know, they're screaming patriarchy, and I'm sitting there reading the stats in class going, wait a minute, 60 to 65% of college graduates, women. 75% of the purchasing power controlled by women.
Yeah, this is another person I've contacted, but I know she might be out of our echelon because she's really busy, and I think she probably has some guards up because she tends to sit with a lot of conservatives, is Summers. Christina Hoff Summers.
Okay.
I sent her an invite by email. I'm not sure if it's one that she uses actively or not, but I'll see eventually if we can get her on the show. She is really good at breaking down statistics online. She's called the Factual Feminist.
Oh, okay.
Just another example of how, though I am not conservative, and I generally don't agree with conservative views, you shouldn't block people out based on their association. You should, you know, listen to their arguments.
Yeah. You know, I just think moving towards a view of true equality. It should no longer be about you had your time in the sun, now it's our turn. You know, because that's what it basically breaks down to, is that men had their chance to rule, now it's our turn.
Yeah.
And we're going to beat you down until we get it. Hey, how about we try real equality? Not just say you want equality, but what you really want is to take all the control. Because honestly, in my life, all but 10 of my teachers have been women. Throughout my life, I'm talking from like grade school through to college. My first college year, all women professors. Not a single male professor.
Really?
Yeah, not one. I saw them. They walked around kind of hunched over with their eyes looking towards their feet, but...
Yeah, well, I told people I was in university for 4 years, And during that entire time, I heard pretty much everything discussed in some type of debate or whatever, open for discussion, including religion, which people seem to think is the holy grail of don't talk to people about it in public.
It's not.
It was feminism. Feminism was never openly debated. There was no discussion about it except for pro.
Yeah, I went anti in my sociology class.
Well, I hope that's changing, because when I was there, like I said, I came out of university 10 years ago now, because I'm old.
This is more recent for me since I went back to college, but yeah. I mean, when the one class, it was just every day feminism.
Oh man!
And even if we were talking about social interactionists or conflict theory, which feminism is a derivative of that, a micro analysis as compared to the macro analysis of just conflict in general.
Yeah.
Everything always got tied back to feminism. Everything. Every single thing. And finally, I was just kind of sitting there the one day, and I'm in a class with like 34 girls and 6 guys. You know, and it would have been more girls, but some of them skipped.
I think it's pretty standard. It's getting to be standard that way, as statistics show that women are continuing to become more and more the percentage of people in university.
Oh, yeah. Totally.
And this is the thing that I get into arguments with people about, disagreements about, is that even people who I find have a balanced approach to this have bought a lot of this crap that society programs us. Society can affect us. It's true. I'm not denying it. Mm-hmm. However, men and women are biologically evolved to have differences. I don't know why this is such a complex issue. Society cannot program out all of the biological differences in male and females.
No, that has to be surgically done upon birth.
Yeah. And just like, so wolves, I use this as an example, wolves and apes, they have societies. Their biology in their environment determines over time what their societies will turn into. It's the same thing with humans. Society isn't some magical thing that suddenly makes us what we are. We make society over time. So this comes back again to the biological side.
Where I could see a bit of a difference is the ability to shape our environment. You know, if your environment evolutionarily determines how you evolve,
yeah.
If we can change our environment, and society can change the environment en masse, then it kind of becomes.
Yeah, I don't mean to say it in absolute terms, right?
Yeah,
there is some interplay, but what I mean is an argument. I'll give you an example. An argument would be that more men play video games, so video games are sexist, because otherwise more women would play. I don't see the logic in this argument. I don't think that follows. I think that over time, we can encourage more women to find interest in video games, and you can change the sort of video game culture. But I think that there was a natural draw by boys to make and play video games, and it just didn't draw as many women. I don't see any scandalous social programming in that.
Oh, well. Now we're getting into the whole Anita Sarkeesian thing, aren't we?
Maybe we can get Thunderfoot on here too.
You know what? I would love to speak to him. That would just be awesome. I'm a fanboy. I'm not gonna lie. I've been a fanboy of his for years. But truthfully, the problem that I have can't be any better stated than what they've already done. Like Thunderfoot and a few others have already thoroughly dissected the Anita Sarkeesian's argument. But the problem is that she doesn't pay attention to it because she's winning. In the form where she needs to get the money.
She's getting what she wants.
Yeah, she's getting what she wants. So there's no tearing her down. Because every time you successfully tear her down, she just goes, patriarchy. Like, it's the buzzword. It just lifts her back up.
Pat Robertson.
Yeah.
Does he care that, say, Thunderfoot doesn't agree with him?
No.
He wouldn't even bother responding because he's getting what he wants.
Yeah.
And all he has to say is the devil.
Yeah. The devil. Boom. You know?
Satan, sin.
Yeah. It doesn't even have to make any sense.
But one thing they'd agree on, Pat Robertson apparently believes in evolution.
What?
Yeah. Isn't that crazy? Like, everything else, he's right-wing batshit evangelist, and then except for evolution, I heard a clip of him saying on a show that it's ridiculous to believe the Earth's only 6,000 years old.
Wow, was it like he's supposed to be off camera at that point or something? Because I mean, I've had him I've seen clips of him on the show with like Ray Comfort, and he's sitting there just going, "Oh yeah, it's ridiculous to believe that we weren't created like a pop can." Like, oh, what?
Well, he still believes we were created, but he believes we were created over a much longer period of time, like science says. But it would be kind of fun to watch him get into a fist fight over it, wouldn't it?
Oh my gosh, it would be wild. I would like to meet Ray Comfort because a lot of people say that, he's dumb and he actually believes this stuff. And then there are people who think he's just a con artist. And I'm wondering if it's both. I wonder if he knows that what he's espousing is bullshit, but he still doesn't believe the science. And I've always felt like I have a good gauge of people in real life. Like, when I finally get to meet them face to face and talk to them, I kind of get a sense for whether or not they believe what they're saying.
Or whether it's tongue in cheek and they're like, ha ha ha.
Yeah, I'm getting more money than you.
Yeah.
It's just,
the temptation for money is one I think people underestimate.
I don't underestimate it. Like, I mean, it would be tough. Like, atheism doesn't have that kind of draw yet for coin, although I'm sure it could. Like, that's what I think Atheism Plus is about. I honestly do. I think it's about the money. Not for everyone.
Well, no, it's not for everyone. There is that, and that's what fuels a lot of the longevity of this stuff. Because Atheism Plus had a limited success rate. I think the money was limited, and that's why we've seen a lot of breakdown and diminishing. If good amounts of money, which usually follow with power, right? Like, if they had gotten their people into positions over most of the conventions, if they had replaced people at the main publications. I mean, they had a successful blog site working for them.
Free
Thought Blogs, yeah.
It's so weird that they have the name Free Thought Blogs, and then you have the guy who goes around saying, Bandhammer!
Yeah. And
Free Thought not?
Silencing your opponents is a sign of weakness and dishonesty. I just really, unless it's a threat, unless, Lee just got home, he said he's probably going to call us. Unless it's a threat, then you have repercussions. Like I'm going to stab you with a knife. Okay, discussion just changed tempo here. But if it's, I disagree with you, and you block them, then there's something wrong with your argument.
Well,
I got kicked off another page on Facebook this week.
You did?
Oh, yeah.
What'd you say?
This is the second time Tyler and Wayne, a couple of apologists, kicked me off of a site. I called them on their shit. I didn't threaten them. I don't think I was even swearing in my discussions with them, but they kept trying to switch the topic from one thing to another.
Oh, yeah.
And I kept calling them back to it and mocking them for being dishonest.
Oh, yeah.
Which is how they treat other people, right?
Yeah.
And so they kicked me off first day. And I noticed they switched the group settings after I joined and started talking to them from open to close. So I laughed. I was like, oh, Wayne, hey, you're not planning on kicking me off again. I noticed you switched it to a closed group so you control who can get back in. And he's like, oh, no, that was for something else. Somebody else had concerns. 3 hours later at midnight, when everyone else was offline, he kicked me off.
Sweet. Oh, man. It's a little bit different for me, like in this informal setting when we're just kind of sitting around and we don't have a guest. And since, most of the people you get in contact with, you kind of direct the conversation. I'm cool with that. But back in the day when I used to argue on Stickam, I was sharp. I had my moments and it wasn't my channel, so I didn't get to choose.
This is with apologists you're talking to?
Yeah, I argue with apologists. Sometimes I even argue with the host of the room. And he was just like a hardcore militant atheist. So he went far extreme atheism, and I was like, whoa, dude, well, yeah, dial it back a little bit there, before you start calling a jihad, But I remember I used to get a pretty good following of people listening in on my arguments, and people like, yeah, it makes sense. We like this guy, he makes sense. And then I would go into like a Christian room one day, and I would just go in. I wouldn't even get on the docs. I wouldn't even talk. And they'd be like, Ashlock's in the room. And like literally I could see it popping across the text screen. They're like, Ashlock's here, Ashlock's here, Ashlock's here. And then all of a sudden it would be like, hey, Ashlock, leave. And I'm like, well, I'm just listening to you guys talk. And then all of a sudden they go kick ban. And I'm like, really? You kicked me from the site? So then I found, I was a bit of a script kiddie back then, right? So I figured out how to get back into the room within like 2 minutes after getting kicked.
Okay.
So I just go in and they'd be like, how'd you get back in? You're banned for an hour. And then they kick me again and then I go back in like 2 minutes. I'd be like, you can keep doing this. I can keep getting around your kicks. And they get really mad about it. And they're like, if you don't leave, we're going to tell Stickham's admins. I'm like, okay, go ahead.
Get out of here! Can't you see we don't want you anymore? Why can't you go back where you came from? Leave us alone!
But they would kick me out of the room even before I had said anything.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is that they target you as someone who's capable in a conflict. Because the point of apologetics is not to find the truth. The point is to leave at least some space for your beliefs to exist. That's all it takes, and you've succeeded as an apologist, right? Is that you can't completely convince me that my ideas about God are unfounded. Therefore, I still believe, no matter how many odds are against it.
Yeah. The problem is that like how did Aaron Ra put it? He said, you have the leaders, the apologist leaders, who are doing it either for money or true belief. It really doesn't matter. And then you have the willfully or unwillfully deceived sheep. And he says, it's the sheep I'm trying to reach. When I have a discussion with an apologist, I'm never trying to defeat their argument. I mean, I am trying to defeat their argument, but I'm not trying to change their mind.
Right.
Which is why that one mutual friend of ours who believes in creationism, I really don't have any interest in discussing it with him anymore, because there's no one else in the room who's benefiting from watching him get destroyed.
He's asked to be on the show.
Oh, God.
Well, he asked a number of times, so I said that I'd have him on the show. If you don't want to be here for the discussion, that's cool.
I do. And honestly, at the end of that, you should put a poll.
Put up a poll and people can vote on what they...
How dismissive was I? Because I will be. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I of all the religious views that could be rationally argued by me, creationism is the one that I've done so much of over the years that I don't have any patience for it anymore. So I understand I will probably come across as a jerk. And ahead of time, to anyone who's one of our listeners, I apologize. I'm going to be dismissive. I'm going to laugh a lot about the shit he says. But if you have him on, have a poll. Who do you think won? Who do you think made sense? How dismissive was Ashlock? Was he a dick? Yes or no? Whatever. I don't care. You just make a poll, and I'm sure I'll come out looking bad on it. But regardless, what was it? Was it like a month ago? You were talking to me in our buddy's back room about dinosaur bones with bird feathers on them, and he's like, that's bullshit, right? And I'm like, I remember both of us just looking over at him like, what? And then you continued on the conversation, and he's like, that's bullshit, right?
Well, one of the reasons I think it's good that he discusses these things with us, even though he tends to have a very rigid way of thinking about them, is that we both kind of have similarities, he and I. He does have some differences in his background, but I was taught a lot of the same things that he was.
Yeah.
So I kind of understand his starting point, and he is still younger than us, right? He's significantly younger.
Yeah.
So some of those ideas, the difficulty is that you were raised with them. Once you start taking them out, it's like Jenga, right?
It is, but I mean, all right. I've had countless hours of discussions with him from the get-go when he was introduced to the group. And, just to kind of set this up for people who will eventually listen to this episode, he has changed his views. But the very first time I had a discussion with him about evolution and the worldwide flood, the very first person he quoted as a source of reliable information was Kent Hovind.
Really?
Yes. And I started to laugh hysterically because I was hoping beyond all hope that being introduced to a real life creationist, in my own hometown, I was going to be presented with something new and interesting and possibly refreshing, to try and see if there was a different point of view that could be taken on all of this stuff. Not because I'm seeking answers, but just because I'm seeking something that isn't banal. And he just, nope, Ken Hovind, and I'm like...
well, isn't that what most people do, though, is they have kind of their heroes and the people they kind of refer to?
Yeah.
When I have discussions, there's two types of discussions I can have when I'm drawn into them. And one is with people who really want to have an actual conversation and exchange ideas.
Yeah.
That's a very different topic for me than the ideas that are presented usually online. When I'm having a discussion online, what is it? Okay, so now I'm an apostate, right? I used to be a conservative evangelical believer. So I understand a lot of the tactics they're using.
Yeah.
And so what I do is I argue their motives. I start picking at their motives for why they're saying what they're saying. And so, for instance, these guys that kicked me off, they would by the end, they were putting 3 scrolls worth of comments about their arguments. I'm a presuppositionalist and blah, 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 just on and on and on. And then at the very end, I would put one response, which was, that's not the topic and you know it. You're trying to change the topic because what it was is the question was asked, what is the simple crux definition that all Christians can agree on? What is the core of what it means to be Christian?
Mm-hmm.
And there is no such thing.
Yeah.
Christian is like a phenomenon. It's a group of things.
Yeah.
But they don't want to present that, because once they say that, it causes divisions between the Catholics and the Protestants, and then the Baptists and the charismatic churches, and the East and the West, right? It's
like rap groups.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, honestly, are we?
Yo, West Coast bitches.
Yeah. But seriously, I don't know why anyone is surprised by this phenomenon of division. Look at atheism, for example. One of the many things that I've said about this group, and many other people have said it, is that we're a herd of cats. The only thing that unites us is our general belief in, or lack of belief, in the supernatural.
Yeah.
Beyond that, we can have different political views, different ideologies, like feminist, not feminist. We like different games, different movies, different music, and everyone goes, well, we're only bonded by our lack of belief in the supernatural.
Yeah.
This is the same with Christians or Muslims. They're only bonded by their belief in this one ideology. Everything else they believe can be different. So, when they're like, division of the groups, a church divided against itself is no church at all, or, it's like, you're already divided. You were divided the moment you took a stance.
Yeah.
And that's because groups can only tend to be so large before they break down.
Yeah, that's true. And usually, the reason the divisions are difficult for them to talk about is that the divisions usually exist in the very first instance. They only become apparent as the groups get larger and time goes on.
Yeah.
But where they say they're all agreeing, they have slight differences even at the beginning in what they think.
See, I also think that division happens. There's a slight generational gap, but what I think happens is you have this charismatic individual. Usually the leader of a particular group is charismatic. Has a good way of speaking. People listen to him. They respect him for whatever reason, whether or not what he's saying is bullshit. And then somebody inevitably will join his group who has the same capacity for charisma, who might disagree on a few key points. And then he'll start to say, well, I think the All-Father is right in everything but this and this and this. And then the group starts to listen to this individual. And then the older leader starts to catch wind of this splinter group within his own group. And they either hash it out and one person is declared the ultimate winner of this division, or the group inevitably splits. It's like cell division, It really is. It's so fluid and biological in a way. It's surprising how people don't see it sometimes, But then this new individual starts his group, and then, like you say, the groups grow separately now, and then those differences are expressed more and more and more as time goes on. And that same process will happen in each group continually until you have, I don't know, 37,000 different denominations of Christianity?
It's kind of the ironic thing about institution, right?
Yeah.
Institution is there to grow and preserve, but it's in our nature and necessary for us to evolve.
Yeah.
So eventually, every institution will be outdated.
Oh, yeah.
So this is kind of the struggle between the old and the new.
Yeah. But I mean, like, even if that first duality that I mentioned occurs, you're probably going to find that this older leader will train up another person, whether it be a direct relative or something else to replace him. So this idea can be preserved, but the longer this one's around, the more divisions will flake off of it. And then this one, the same thing. And the really, really crazy ones, like the ones we find the most entertaining to talk about, those are the ones that I fear will die the soonest because, like the Westboro Baptist Church.
Yeah.
That's a generally family church. They don't have a lot of membership outside the family. So that one, its days are kind of numbered.
Yeah.
The only thing that gives it any kind of draw is the media attention they get from being assholes.
Yeah. I think, over the generations, we're going to see more and more of a cultural rather than overwhelming religious element to what is now often overwhelmingly religious, right? It's going to be something we go there because it's our family tradition, or it's what's the other one? Spiritual. People say I'm not religious, I'm spiritual.
Yeah.
Which is really frustrating to argue with them, but I think that they tend to be more pliable in a civil way.
Yeah.
As opposed to when, say, okay, gay marriage. All right. So we know that people are going to come out and protest this, right? Most of us, either, whether we agree with it or not, most of us really doesn't affect us. We don't care. unless our church leader is telling us that the world's going to end because Armageddon's going to happen because gay people are getting married.
Honestly, I know gay people. I have friends who are gay. I have a young lady who I go to school with who we study together. My pet lesbian, and that's what I call her. She just thinks it's hilarious. And honestly, I have better things to do with my life. If I were against her lifestyle, I would still have better things to do with my life than to advocate against her right to love.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, what's the point of getting involved in all of this? Like, if they want to get married, fine, just set it up. I can see where it'd be more complicated when you talk about groups of people wanting to be married, because that, like, legally speaking, like, I don't have no idea how you'd set all of that up. It'd be a nightmare when people start having arguments and fights and their legal statuses and stuff. But if two grown adults want to get married, I don't care. You know what? I think there are a lot of straight people that I've known that are getting married that I think shouldn't get married, but I don't protest them.
I'm pro for multiple like polygamy, whatever. Again, it doesn't affect me. If one dude...
Yeah, it doesn't affect me either. I'm just saying, like, I can see, like from a taxation and legal standing point of view, how that would require a lot more overhaul.
I suppose. Like, I mean, I think to say that it's difficult for a panel of judges and lawyers and legislators to come up with a reasonable way to handle this is I'm not saying you're copying out, but I think, this would be very complicated. I've seen some of the legislation that comes out of capital.
That is a fine point.
They are not afraid of convolution. Like they love to make things complex and unreasonable.
I think I'm more concerned about like people who, let's say, 3-4 people, whatever, are going to get married.
Yeah.
And they're very passionate. They feel this is about love in their own way. But then things go wrong.
Yeah.
Do they have to be a lawyer to understand what's now going to happen? That's what I'm wondering. Like, how complicated would it be for them?
I'm married to one woman, and I'm not a lawyer. And if something goes wrong, I still need a lawyer to help me understand it. So I don't see the difference.
Well, I'm going, I've been divorced. I'm going through separation issues with one child, right?
Yeah.
And I can tell you that it's destroyed me financially. And most of the time, I don't know what levers are being pulled, legally speaking. Like, I'm not sure of the details. So if there were, like, 2 more partners involved, let alone any more kids.
Well, let's just hope. Like, I guess this is the part where, like, people would argue against patriarchy, because if the guy is in the center of this spider web.
Oh, like 3 women and one guy?
3 women and one guy. If one woman is leaving him and 2 other women are staying with him, since they are all married to him, in a one-on-one relationship, half of what's mine is hers.
Yeah.
But in a 4-on-1 relationship, is half of what's both theirs and mine that one that's leaving?
Yeah. Oh, man.
Yeah. See, that's where I can understand.
My nose would be bleeding in court trying to figure all this out.
I want alimony from all 3 of them.
How much time would it take? Because your lawyer would have to go through that much more back and forth with the different people, and that much more time for the judge to talk it out in the proceedings.
All I'm saying is that I'm not against the idea. I don't think that there's anything immoral about it, and again, this is the part with when people take on a moral stance. Look, I'm against people, like, if you want to murder, I'm against that.
Yeah.
I am pro taking away your right to kill another living, productive member of society. Executions, I'm kind of on the fence about, even though I'm against murder, because I do see a distinction between killing somebody who's just a murdering rampager, and, somebody who's just, doing their job, trying to remove the murdering rampager from society.
Yeah, someone's firing a gun off in a bank, killing people, and a cop puts a bullet in his head. Yeah. There's a distinction between the motive as to why they were doing what they were doing.
Yeah, one is to protect, the other one is because I'm insane.
Yeah.
Or not right somehow.
The cop's not like at the beginning of the day, like, gee, I sure hope I can put a bullet through someone's head and make my day.
Yeah.
I hope not, anyway.
But, this is the problem that even people who don't have a religious ideology usually have some moral core that they don't have any flex on. And that's not bad in and of itself. But it's like, you have to understand that what's moral to you is not going to be moral to everyone. It's like, when you're judging one culture as less advanced than yours, is cultural relativism. But that relativism extends to just individuals. My morals are different than your morals, and your morals are going to be different than Corey's morals and Jason's morals, and everybody's morals are different, what they would allow for.
Right.
Me, personally, you want to be in a relationship, if you are a guy who has the gonads, the bank account, and the want and ability to convince multiple women to be in a relationship with you, have at her, buddy. Have at her.
Yeah.
I'm happy.
Right.
I am happy with one woman, and I'm not bashing my wife. I'm not. I love her. She's great. But I wouldn't want another wife. I wouldn't, because
because responsibility comes with the package.
Well, it's not just the responsibility, but I mean, any person, not just a woman, but like me, I get angry and temperamental and grumpy sometimes, and so does she.
Right, but that's what I kind of mean.
It's emotionally taxing to deal with another person's emotions.
Right, yeah.
If you're a guy who has 3 wives or 2 wives...
Well, this is the solution I've come up with. The reason this used to work back in the day, and by the way, the one man, one woman that Christians talk about did not come from the Jewish tradition.
No.
It did not in any way. It was Roman tradition that had that.
Mm-hmm.
So when they had this, the reason they could do it is because they had legal precedent for beating your wife. Yeah. She had status as property, essentially. I think they didn't go around thinking, well, here comes a cardboard box. They knew it was a person, but there was a different way of looking at them. They could be kind of manhandled and treated, to control them in a certain way. So if you had 3 wives, well, it's not so bad, because if it gets out of hand, you can smack a couple of them around, and the third one will probably be like, well, I guess I better stop complaining. That was the environment, right? So that's why men felt that they could do that.
Yeah.
But now...
A true patriarchy.
Yeah, that's right. It has an actual patriarchy. But now we understand that everyone gets fair treatment, which means when you're in a relationship, you have three versus you and 1. If they're all angry at you, you are fucked.
Yeah. Yeah. I could not handle the responsibility, both emotionally, financially, or anything, having more than one woman emotionally involved with me. Like, I'm not even talking just marriage. I'm talking, cheating? Like whatever. I'm kind of flexible on that, too. Like, not in my own relationship, but I mean, if
other people making upfront arrangements with each other or whatever.
Yeah, open relationships and stuff like that. Yeah. It doesn't bother me. But even just having another woman emotionally involved with me would be taxing.
Yeah.
It'd be
like Sopranos. You ever watch Sopranos?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it never worked out well for him.
No, it didn't. You always get the crazy ones.
He tried to be the nice guy to his, mistress.
Yeah.
And then they would always go crazy or something.
Yeah, and then he'd have to slap her.
But, I think turning this around, it's the same thing why a lot of women you don't see them getting into relationships with 3 guys.
Well, because men are generally more territorial, I think. That's a stereotype too, I guess.
It is a stereotype, but let's even say it's the rule. There are still women who are an exception to the rule, where they'd be like, that'd be fun to have 3 guys following me around. But they know if you're going to be in relationships with these guys in some way, there's attachments that are there. And, I'm sure she wouldn't want to have arguments with 3 guys that are all upset any more than a guy would want to have a relationship with 3 women who are all upset.
Yeah. I suppose. I still think that in an argument, 1 woman versus 3 guys would still win.
It's possible.
Yeah. Just because she could deny them the one thing all 3 of them want.
I think this is for me why I say that if people don't want to get married, it's good. I think it's important for us to make an individual decision without all the stigma.
Yeah.
Some people, they get married because they feel that they need to, because this is what's expected of them. And then they end up either cheating or just screwing up their relationship because this is not who they are. I think some people are just not meant for a lifelong monogamous situation. That's, we're talking about diversity in the species. I think that's part of it.
I think it's part of it too. There have been people in our own collective group of friends who think that I am completely not marriage worthy.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, totally. Because I'm a bit flirty and whatnot. Well, okay, a lot flirty. But I mean, this is something that before I got married, my wife or wife to be at the time was already well aware of.
Yeah.
That I'm just kind of a social butterfly.
Yeah.
If I find a woman attractive, I'm not going to be like, ew, gross. No, don't look pretty in front of me. But I also know where the line is.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Also knowing what you want, what's going to satisfy you in life.
Yeah.
Yeah, like again, from my religious background, like everyone's expected to get married, or there must be something wrong.
Yeah.
We'll pray for you.
Yeah, we'll pray for families are odd things. I personally have never had a lot of attachment to traditions. And I think a lot of people do have attachments to traditions. And I don't know, maybe that's again another diversity in the species where some people are just more hardcore into, this is the way our family has always done things. And me, I'm less about that. Like if somebody's like, well, we always do this on this day of this time of year, and I'm like, well, I've got something going on.
Have you seen that video by Jenna Marbles where she talks about feminism?
No.
It is the first video I ever watched of her. Somebody pointed it out to me.
Okay.
She's normally obviously funny for anyone who doesn't know her. She's got hilarious videos out there. She's got a light sense of humor.
Okay.
But I will tell you, if you're easily offended, you can go ahead and just stop watching this video right now. And as a matter of fact, you might as well just click off the internet and sign off forever and go turn on Sesame Street or something and just watch that for the rest of your life, because I don't care. I've literally never given a fuck, and I'm not giving a single fuck today. What I have to say has to do with girls.
She's sitting there recording one day. It's only 4 minutes long.
Yeah.
And apparently she had some kind of a blowout with some of her friends while they were hanging out that night. And so she went home and recorded this thing. Well, what pisses her off about feminists.
They turn around and they still have these old ass gender roles where they're looking for their Prince Charming and their knight in shining armor. And the guy is supposed to pay for everything. The guy is supposed to take care of them. I mean, you want to talk about double standard. You want all the rights that a guy has. You want to be treated exactly like a guy. You want, the same respect, same everything. And yet you want them to take care of you. I mean, how many girls do you know like this? They're like, I won't date a guy unless he buys me X, Y, and Z, and he pays for dinner, and he pays for this.
So you expect that you're going to get all the same rights, all the same opportunities as men, but you expect the man to take care of you and buy you all of your shit. It's like, hey, you sit at home going...
So for all you girls out there that are real sad sitting on your couch eating Haagen-Dazs and reading Cosmo about how no guys will date you and fucking buy you everything and you have high standards for them, where have all the good men gone?
And she looks at the camera really angry and goes...
They're dating other girls that fucking get it, right?
Because she obviously makes her own money, right? She makes her own living.
Yeah.
She talks about her first job cleaning up at a beauty salon, picking up nails and stuff like that.
Ooh.
And she was quite young, I guess, when she started working. It's a hilarious video if you get a chance to watch it.
You're gonna have to send that to me. Text me the link so I can look it up. Wow, we are jumping all over the place. I kind of like it, but I mean, I feel bad for the person who's trying to follow it, because they'll be like, okay, they started out talking about feminism, and then they jumped to Batman and Superman, and then they were talking about marriage and polygamy. Oh my god, what's going on? I can't follow this.
We'll ask somebody if they want to Skype.
Okay, good. A third person will bring direction to this conversation.
Well, let's not bank on that, but theoretically it should.
Theoretically, yes. We'll have to bear out this theory.
Another person that I would like eventually to get on our show if I get the chance, Dr. Alan J. Francis.
Yeah.
So I'm following him on Twitter quite a bit. And he had a thing, it's from yesterday from the New York Times, is it? Let's see, New York Times. And it's talking about in California, 28% of their inmates are classified as mentally ill.
Oh,
and
yeah?
the treatment for them is basically taser them or put them in solitary confinement or spraying their eyes with mace.
Oh yeah, that works.
Yeah.
I think I saw a medical study. What the hell?
So he's saying, in the article it's talking about there's a judge who made the videos of this treatment go public. He ordered them released to the public. And so there was an outrage in California about this going on. And so now they're putting in this whole new plan where they're going to have mental health professionals there to try and de-escalate and to assess the situation before violence gets involved.
Yeah.
But the thing that he's talked about before is he said, in the last couple of decades, I think it's the last 30 years, he has watched as about 1 million beds in the States. The same thing's happening here, just in smaller population, but same percentage. About 1 million beds have been closed in mental health facilities, and about 1 million mentally ill inmates have ended up in prison over that same period of time. In the States.
Okay, yeah.
So basically, they took them out of the facility and put them into prison. Yeah, and I think the same thing must be happening here in Canada to some degree. I know people say that they didn't used to see in Ottawa. There's homeless people, quite a few, wandering the streets talking about weird things.
Oh, No, yeah, it does happen, but I think in Canada we go a little bit further in our mental health care
possibly
than the States do. I'm not saying it's perfect, but I mean there are a lot more independently run halfway houses. Like I mean, just in our town alone, there's a few dozen. My mother used to run one.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I grew up around people who were cuckoo.
And now you hang out with a group of friends who are cuckoo.
My friends are cuckoo in a completely different way. But like, I mean, it was interesting. Because I grew up in an environment around people who were mentally disabled in a variety of different capacities. Some of them were highly functional, and other ones were not. But because they grew up in a family environment, like 3 generations on my mom's side took care of this group of individuals, they were a lot more normalized. You know, they got to be around a family and they all had meals together, and me and my sister and my father were always around.
Yeah.
So in a very deep way, I feel like a connection to that particular portion of our society. They are like anyone else. They just need a little bit more help.
Yeah. I think moving them out of the this is sorry. I should probably specify this. He doesn't have a problem, and neither do I, with the fact that they were moved out of institutions. These people are moved out.
Yeah.
But the idea was that funding is supposed to follow to help them find a place in society as we help them with, their own struggles, as opposed to locking them away behind closed doors. We don't want to see them or know them. But what happened, at least in the States, for sure, is that to a large degree that funding didn't follow. It went elsewhere, and these people ended up in prison.
Yeah, and that's wrong.
Yeah.
Completely backwards in the way it should have been run. I'm not saying all of these halfway houses where people who are coming out of the hospitals and deemed safer living in the community are always perfect. There are some that are probably poorly run. But I think a vast majority of these individuals are gaining a benefit from being in like an environment where they are free to go out and go to the movies, go to the store, go to the mall, walk around, doesn't really matter, and be out amongst the general populace. But they have a safe place to go where they are guaranteed a bed, their 3 squares a day if they need them, and their medication that keeps them functional. I think only when government funding is misused in those places is when it goes wrong the most. Like, I mean, I'm going into this field. I'm going to be working with individuals with a wide variety of mental incapacities or different capacities, and I want to do this because I grew up around it.
So there's a couple other guys who talk about some of the same types of things that Dr. Alan Francis does. I might contact them as well and see if either of them respond. Because like I said, they're all going to be busy. They've all got books out. They're all professionals.
Yeah.
So if one of them has like some time to talk to us, then anyone with expertise in the field, like experience in the field, will do.
I always feel weird when we talk to somebody with like a PhD because I feel so underaccomplished. It's like, but whatever. I can fake sound.
Dr. Price has 2 PhDs.
Shut up.
Because before I had him on the show, that was the first time I was actually tying back to the previous conversation. The first time I was kicked off one of these apologetics Facebook groups about a year ago. They kicked me off because I called them on a lot of their crap. The guy who ran the site got angry at me, and I said, look, 2 points here. First of all, I don't like the way on your podcast you've been slamming people you disagree with in a really disrespectful way. It's not just that you disagree with them, you don't respect them, and you make it very clear.
Yeah.
And one of them is Dr. Price. I said, first of all, I think that you're a mental midget, and you don't even have a degree in the field compared to this guy. Setting that aside, if you want to show us how much more you know and how stupid he is, I'll set up a debate on our show, and I'll set up the rules, and the 2 of you can debate. And, of course, he refused to do that. I still contacted Dr. Price because I wanted him on the show anyway.
Yeah.
But, Dr. Price, I'm sure, would have been really nice to him. Fair, but still, he would have looked foolish saying a lot of things that he was saying. Not Dr. Price, I mean this other guy.
Yeah.
To clarify.
Well, the listener might need to know what the hell you're talking about.
Yeah.
I got it.
Yeah. The other thing that I said to the guy who was running the site was, I said, you're a Christian. I said, you're a believer. And you're lying to everyone here that you're not, because you're trying to shimmy us into a conversation. I said, a lot of these guys you're arguing with that call themselves skeptics are not from a religious background. They don't know what you're doing. But I know your type. I said, you've given yourself away with certain things you've said. But I said, let's settle it right here and right now. I will say, I'll totally concede the fact that you are not a Christian if you deny Christ. Just type those few words right here, I deny Christ. As a non-believer, it won't affect you at all. But if you're a believer, it'll cast your soul into hell. Yeah. And of course, he refused and he banned me.
Yeah.
But, you know, people who lie like that, those are the people I get into real huffs with when we start get going, you know. I don't like it. Why would you spend your time lying to people? Something wrong with you. You gotta do that.
Everyone lies. Honestly, everyone lies.
Yeah, but there's a difference between on the spur of the moment lying or thinking it's funny to lie and then, like, lying because you're trying to, like, manipulate people and some kind of weird... I don't even know what that phenomenon would be.
Oh, I'm not 100% certain even how to categorize that, honestly. Like, I don't know.
Anyways, he was a stupid poopy pants and I was smart.
Oh, great. Now we're degenerating. Full on degeneration.
Well, I didn't say his name, so it's okay, right?
I don't know how many views our first video got where we just sat around and powwowed, but, like, I mean, generally speaking, if this gets more views than some of our more well thought out shows, fuck it, we're just going freeform all the time. I generally do better when I'm being offensive anyway.
Who else did I contact? So that's 3 of the guests I contacted. There's a couple more.
We're gonna have to edit out this middle part here.
Can't remember now. A lot of times it's spontaneous. Like I'll just be reading someone's work, something on Twitter, something on Facebook, or somewhere else, and I'll just send them a message. Yeah.
You know what I'm generally curious about? The impression. I'm not concerned about what impression I leave. Like, it's not like I'm like, oh, I hope that they thought we were smart or anything. But, like, I'm always curious about when we talk to somebody like Dr. Price or some of the other guests we've had. After they get off the mic, if they're like, holy crap, those guys are dumber than fucking shit.
I know Dr. Price didn't think that.
Oh, no?
Because he's the one who contacted us about our guest, Earl Wonderly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he just sent me an email out of nowhere. And not only that, when they sent a link to our show, they linked it to the song I made for him. Oh. The Price of Knowledge. And I've listened to it again. It's a pretty damn good song.
I like it. You know,
I don't think there's any other theologians with a fucking kick-ass song like that.
No. You put a lot of effort into that. I have to admit that was kind of good. No, I always have fun when I can hold up a conversation with somebody vastly more educated than myself. You know, I just wish I had more money in my youth. I would have gone to university. I think I would have done really, 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 really well.
I think society would gain a lot by really trying to find ways to encourage more people to go to university. Maybe not right away, but, you know, after they leave high school, maybe within the first couple of years, think about going back before they get settled into a career that they maybe don't even like.
If I can save up enough money when I finally get into the field working, you already heard me state my goals are to go on to university.
Yeah, I think you'll do great.
I hope so. I think going as an adult student will have, or as an adult student, all people go to university, I suppose, are adults by that point legally. A mature student. That's the one thing I've noticed is that even though I'm past that point where people say, oh, you know, after 30, your brain starts to shrink and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, but you want to know what I am? I'm more focused. I'm definitely more focused. Like, I don't get distracted. Like, when a girl's like, oh, yeah, you want to go out to the bar with me and all the guys? Or, you know, one of the guys like, you want to come out and have a couple beers? I'm like, you know what? That's cool, but I got 3 kids at home and I kind of need to study. You know, and I hate being the fuddy-duddy, but I got thousands of dollars on the line.
Yeah.
You know, so.
And you appreciate how much work that's worth. Yeah. Those are many hours worth of dollars.
Those are many hours worth of dollars.
I agree. Like, for me, if I can't say how it would have been better or worse to do my different life over again, like if I went back. But I can tell you that at the age I was at, happened for me a little bit, like about 5 years later than for a lot of people. But because I was from such a conservative, sheltered background, I was bombarded by an environment of new ideas. In a larger city than I had been in, and all this kind of stuff. And I did have a crisis. The last 2 years that I was there, I was definitely entering into and going through a depression. So if I had managed to have some of those experiences before I went there, maybe it would have saved me the money, because I left out my degree.
Yeah.
So it would have saved me a lot of money.
Perhaps. You know, I know I've had bouts of depression in my life where I'm just down. Everybody does.
Yeah.
But I can never say that I've had a clinical depression.
I had 3 different doctors try and put me on antidepressants, so I can say that I had.
Yeah. Recently I've been looking into more psychology stuff, like especially since I finished my first year.
Yeah.
I find psychology completely interesting,
Yeah.
even if I don't agree with everything about it. I've been having this ongoing debate with my mother, my wife, my wife's friends about attachment. And I'm losing this argument horribly. And it's, my one son is very, very, very attached to this stuffed animal. And I think it's high time that he starts the process of detaching from this inanimate object.
Okay.
And
your son is
9.
9.
Yeah. And I think he's well past the point where he should have given this thing up. Or at least started the process of giving it up. I'm not saying I want to burn it in a fire, or
Though that's the first image that just sprang to your mind.
Yeah, it is.
Take that, bear. Take that.
But I do believe that it is unhealthy that at this age he still has a firm attachment to this inanimate object.
Yeah, well, I can see that being a worry that you'd have as a father.
Yeah, as a father, but see, this is where it's getting into gender norms, where people are saying I'm just being Mr. Macho Pants, where I don't want my son playing with dolls or blah blah blah. I'm like, it's not about that. It's not about the perception of him being a girly boy. It's nothing about that. I just think that as he's getting older, he's going to start getting social pressures teased by other peers, whether it's his brother or his brother's friends. Like, all it would take is him to freely admit, I have a stuffed animal, or for his brother to go, my brother still plays with stuffed animals, and then he is going to be socially ostracized.
Yeah.
And this is what I'm trying to have him avoid, and the counter argument I get in return is that he uses it to distress, he uses it when he's down, and I get all these things. I understand them, but at some point you gotta cut the umbilical cord.
Yeah, you gotta give a little push sometimes. That's always the question, right? When to do it and when.
Yeah, and he has a hard time as a young man. He's a boy. He's 9, dealing with his emotions. I'm 35. I have a hard time dealing with my emotions. I get angry all the time, but I don't go suck my thumb in my room and snuggle a stuffed animal. And then I get this other counter argument in return. Each of them say, "Oh, I still have my stuffed animal from when I was a kid." Well, what do you say to that? Well, I can't say, well, you're a woman, because then I'm being sexist. And it has nothing to do with that. It's just that they were never told to give those kind of things up because they were women.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there are some gender
related issues,
gender-related issues here. And I always notice that most of the guys who I talk to about this are like, yeah, maybe you should give it up. 9's a little old to be still carrying around a stuffed animal.
We don't like your cooking, your stupid karaoke nights, and we especially don't like the way you hump that chair in the den.
Well, Rupert seems to like my humping.
What did you say?
Rupert. Humped him for 2 hours yesterday. He just laid there and took it.
Did he?
Yeah. And now every time you're sleeping with him, he's gonna be thinking of me.
And most of the women are like, back the hell off.
Yeah, it's a very different perspective. And again, you'll see that people are aligning with very largely, not completely, but largely male, female on their perspective.
Yeah. They're distinct camps. Like it is all women in one corner, all men in the other. And I'm not saying that there hasn't been a little bit of crossover. It depends on the point I'm making. But the reason I brought this up is that there's this whole idea of attachment.
Yeah.
And how people get attached to ideas, how they get attached to things, how they get attached to other people. And my mother said something very interesting that I never knew. But apparently growing up, I didn't have any attachments. And I wonder if that's a sign of something. Like, I'm not worried, like, nothing worrisome. I'm obviously social, and I don't display any psychotic behavior that I'm aware of.
That you haven't managed to conceal.
Yes. But, my mother swears up and down that I never, ever, ever had a stuffed animal, a toy, a blanket, anything that was distinctly mine that I defended tooth and nail and had to have. And my other son, Matthew, is more like that. He has very little that he's like his bike. You know, he likes his bike. He likes his stuff. I like my stuff. But if I were to break something or lose something of mine tomorrow, it's like, I guess I'll just have to replace it when I can afford to.
Yeah.
You know, it makes me wonder how attachment works differently for some people.
It's your experiences and down to the individual, I guess. I guess some people would say we're just programmed by society, but that doesn't seem to answer every variation.
Yeah,
sometimes, right?
how like my mother is highly attached to things. My mother is like especially since the passing of my sister, and I don't blame her, but she is highly sentimental.
Well, you know, here's a possibility. Maybe it's the type of attachment we're talking about. Some attachments are in the material world; you can see them very easily. Perhaps your attachments are more towards your family, like your attachments are more specifically honed into those things, and you just don't show them for material things.
Well, that's possible, but I mean, like, when you anthropomorphize a stuffed animal, you give it
a relationship.
My son, maybe less now than when he was a lot younger, like 3 years ago, this thing was a living being, you know. This stuffed animal had a personality. It had things it liked and didn't like. You know, he fed the damn thing. I can't tell you how many times we had to put it through the wash when he wasn't looking just to get peanut butter off of its mouth. You know, he like, yeah, and he doesn't do that now. So there has been some progression in his understanding that this thing is not alive.
Yeah.
But, you know, at some point he had a literal relationship with it.
Yeah.
And I just, I don't know. It's a strange phenomena to me. And maybe it's because I never had that growing up, which is why it seems so foreign to me now. And why everyone else goes, I don't see what your problem is, man. I had a stuffed animal.
I think your concern is just to the type of relationship he has with the stuffed animal at the age. I don't think that you're being, the way you're explaining it, I don't think it's unwarranted. You're worried about how this is going to affect his social life, how other people are going to perceive him.
Yeah.
For my equivalent that right away jumped to my mind, my daughter is now, she's obviously only 6, is that one of the things she does to deal with a lot of stress in her life is that she will take rejection badly, what she perceives as rejection. So a kid doesn't want to play with her. This happens over at our friend's place.
Yeah.
So one of the kids there won't want to play the game she wants to play. She'll get very upset and try and tell them they have to because it's a rejection to her, right? Even though it's not.
Mm-hmm.
And so when she starts getting emotional about it, she will run and hide in a closet or want to hide in the bathroom. And depending on the circumstances, I usually allow some form of this because she's young and this is a coping mechanism she's kind of developed for a larger kind of phenomenon in her life. But I don't want her, I do have this concern in my mind as she gets older. I want to help her move away from that as soon as possible, find a different way to deal with stuff because I don't want her to be a 20-year-old who whenever, you know, say she's, you know, got a boyfriend and the boyfriend says something that just sets her off one day that she's like, you know what? You know, fuck you, and then walks away and then comes back a couple days later or whatever. And, you know, I don't want her to like retreat from problems in that way.
No, I can understand that. That would seem to make sense. You know, my presentation of my argument is different. Like here, when I'm talking to you, it's a little bit more, I think, rational. But when you're in that emotional environment, and usually the subject's brought up when he refuses to go to bed without it, or it's been misplaced, and it gets highly stressful, you know, and when I'm already highly stressed, that's when I resort to my more typical fatherly argument that I don't want him to be a sissy pussy pants, and, you know, we should take this thing away from him so that he can man up.
You don't want to be over macho about it.
Yeah.
Growing up, I remember seeing some fathers that were really like that to my friends, that their dad would be like, hey, don't be a baby.
Yeah. Don't be
a man. And they were like you're saying, like 9 or 10 years old. Like,
be a man.
Go put some car grease on your face.
Yeah. I don't think I take it quite to that extreme with it, but I have caught myself saying things like "man up." You know.
Well, I think it comes from our natural desire, especially. I don't have a son, but I imagine as a father to a son, just from what I've seen, you're trying to help them get ready for being a man.
Yeah.
In steps. You don't want to push it too fast. You don't want to try and mold them into you. At the same time, you don't want to be so lax that they have no direction from you.
Yeah. Like I am my son's best model for what a man is supposed to be like. And that's not saying much. But I mean, I do get caught up, and that's the hard part, is that even if you are a very rational individual who knows that a lot of these gender roles and gender stereotypes are just social constructs, not all of them, but a lot of them are. You know, I hate myself when I get caught saying things like, man up, you know, because that's not me. You know what I mean? I'm not saying I don't man up, but, you know, you saying that women can't woman up? You know what I mean? Like it's basically take responsibility.
Yeah.
You know, when you're saying be a man or don't be a girl, those are, you're denoting that being a man is strong and not emotional. And being a woman or being like a girl, like this whole argument online, like a girl or bossy. You know, I think they're taking it too far, but I do see the validity behind the misuse of those things. You know, and I've misused them too. I have.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as parents, we all make mistakes.
Oh yeah.
Except for me.
Except for
I'm
you.
a parent. That's perfect.
Yeah. Exactly.
But women do it too, to their daughters, and in ways like that. You know the old song "Big Girls Don't Cry."
Yeah.
There are examples of it that you know they do it as well. We just do it in different ways. I don't know. That's probably why it's handy to have two parents. For one parent to look at the other parent and go, well, "That's pretty harsh, don't you think?"
Yeah.
When we're not really thinking about how we're saying it.
I had another male friend come over to my house the one day, and my wife is teaching my sons how to crochet. And I was sitting there playing Call of Duty or Battlefield or something like that. So I am old guy, just, you know, online with my headset on, going, "Yeah, I'm gonna kill you, you team killing son of a bitch." And then here are my sons in the other room, you know, crocheting. And he comes in and he looks at them and he looks at me and he goes, "Really? Like, you're okay with this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, well, why wouldn't I be?" Like that's where I'm not the typical view of boy roles versus girl roles. Like, if they want to learn how to crochet, have at her. It could be useful someday. You know, when the impending apocalypse happens, maybe they'll need to know how to make themselves a nice warm scarf. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I don't have any problem with them playing with girly toys. I don't have any problem with them learning to crochet or sew or cook.
Well, it's also quality time with their mom. It's learning how to focus on something that takes patience.
And coordination.
And, you want to get that project done, you have to have a vision for it at the beginning. You have to see it all the way through, do all the work. Yeah, I think people just kind of get a little sometimes alarmed about things that aren't really particular concern. Yeah.
Yeah. So like maybe I'm overreacting about the stuffed animal thing. I literally said these haven't been the most shining examples of my ability to argue a point clearly, because I'm arguing it against three women, either individually or collectively. And when I'm doing that, at some
you're
point,
backed up against a wall type.
Oh yeah, just completely like, you know, you're just being a
and
macho.
They pull hair and stuff.
Oh yeah, they fight dirty. So at the last argument, I'm like, oh well, you know what? That's what it was. My mother, and I know that she doesn't listen to the show, so I don't mind saying this because she'd probably be angry if I was bringing her up. But she goes, maybe you need to go look at those textbooks of yours again. You know, basically implying that I don't know what I'm talking about. And I was like, maybe you would like to open one up for the first time, Mom. You know, like, so, I mean, the discussion started to get ugly to the point where I was just like, you know what? You win. He can carry that thing around until he's 25 years old, and he can take it to his office with him, and when he can't get a girlfriend, and blah, 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 I'm just going to call you guys up and be like, hey, look, but you know what? He's still got the stuffy, you know? And I know I was being childish, they were being childish, it was just ugly. I just hope that eventually he grows out of it for his own social well-being.
Well, he will eventually, but I think what you mean is before it causes him a lot of heartache with some kind of a weird social situation.
Yeah. Somebody calling in, eh?
That concludes the first part with me and Smashlock yapping along. Second part, stay tuned for that. It's going to have our podcasting friends tuned in. I'm going to throw in a little funny parody I did of Deepak Chopra. And besides that, I want to draw attention to the new page I just put up. It has charities that I think are good ones. There are others as well, but these links don't count anything. We don't get anything from them. I just think that if you enjoy the show, these are organizations that are trying to make a real difference. I call it Patreon Wars, because I want it to be a little nudge towards what I see as a double standard, criticizing, as many in the secular world do, especially podcasters, religious folks, for taking some of the money from their charities and putting it towards their own agendas, ideology, and overhead, which I believe podcasts are doing when they ask for money from Patreon. So, on that note, nudge nudge, check out the page, or just donate to that money towards feeding children, educating people, and something that'll make a serious difference. And on that note, we'll catch you next time on Apostasy Now.
The line must be drawn here. This far, no farther. And I will make them pay for what they've done.
Golly, Dr. Phil here. Deepak Chopra? Why don't you film Bill's helmet just once? You got a cougar by the tail, no sense not talking.
For sure.
You know it.
Okay, when I'm fit, it's Phil's friend at Chopra going to tell you about my big wallet. And I wiggle out of it when you want to know if he's legitimate, and the women that you have got around when they hear me saying things sound profound. Quantum is the word that makes everybody go and take the money right out the bank, and they come see me that I'm just a bum. No, I'm shiny. You think you can dismiss me? Dissing me? I don't think you got enough money to be pissing on the street that I live on. Now you know I roll with the limo. Get a personal flight because people know I talk quantum all night. Maybe if you attracted and I wiggle it. Oh yeah, I kinda wiggle out of it. Wiggle? I wiggle out of it. Yes, I wiggle out of it. That's the jittery, I wiggle out of it. And every day when I think that I came from a poor country, India, and I sound like a guru. Stooge? No, I think you knew that I'd come here and steal all your cash and your stew too. Now I know I left the doctor industry medical, so I would give you stuff that sounded mental. But it makes me cash, makes it fast, like Dr. Oz and Phil. No, I kicked that ass and you got to just avoid it and you wiggle it. You wiggle out of it. Don't answer, you wiggle out of it. What's that answer? I wiggle out of it. Quantum, bitch, I wiggle out of it. And yo, do you know that I'm gonna do a hip-hop breakdown here and show that I'm tough and I'm rough and I'm rugged? No, not really. Got nice suits and it looks better than you. Down at Philly, getting all your ladies talking to me, and you got to compete with me, and I talk to them about God, or light, inner peace, and all of that stuff. If you want to hear, just think it's good and it'll happen. That's the deal. Use terms I don't understand, it sounds really fancy. It's the way that they did it for thousands of years. Taking cash and playing on fears. That's the way you get successful. I talk about how I want to be spiritual. But we all know I like the dough. I like my hair to glow. Yo, I wiggle out of it. Ha. You know I wiggle out of it. Yeah, I smile and wiggle. You can't catch me, I wiggle out of it. I wiggle out of it. Deepak Chopra, yo, he wiggle out of it. Dr. Oz, he wiggle out of it. Dr. Phil, he wiggle out of it. Go together, we all out, bitch.